Should the Royals try Maikel Garcia at the leadoff spot again? We'll dive into it this edition of Locked On Royals.
You are Locked On Royals, your daily Kansas City Royals podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are tuned into another edition of Locked On Royals in the Locked On Podcast Network. As always, I am your host, Jack Johnson, and you can find me on Twitter or X at JohnnyJ_15. That's at JOHNYJ_15. You also can catch this podcast on wherever you listen to podcasts. That's Spotify, Apple Podcast, Amazon Music, Google Podcast, Odyssey, and YouTube. Just be sure to hit the follow button and subscribe. For you first-time listeners, it's been a little bit of a chaotic week. Got back from San Francisco the other day. Did an episode last night. Was trying to get an episode up a little bit earlier on this evening, but when you miss that many days of work, going to have to make up for it pretty much the day you get back. So this one coming to you very, very late into the night. Maybe you're still up. Maybe you're listening to this in the morning. But typically we bring you those episodes Monday through Friday. Friday being our Mailbag Friday. And we also have those 60-second recaps on YouTube that you can expect after every single Royals game. Now, before we get started, want to let you know that today's show is brought to you by Supply House. Join the Trade Master program today at supplyhouse.com/TM and start ordering plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies with just a few clicks. Plus, use promo code SH5 for 5% off on your first order. That's supplyhouse.com. This first topic of the show tonight, or this morning, if you are listening to it about when this post, or if you're going to be listening to this while you're drinking your coffee in the morning, gearing up for the Royals and Twins tonight. But this is a topic of conversation I wasn't sold I was ever going to have throughout this season, whether it be that I was much higher on Jonathan India than most, or I had come back down to earth on my expectations for Maikel Garcia. But yet here we are, talking about a potential shift in the order, a readjustment, if you will, from the top spot in the order and the bottom half of the order. And I looked into some stats today, and I thought it would be interesting to bring up in Thursday's episode, though this technically would be a Friday episode when this is coming to you. But I thought Maikel Garcia has played pretty well when leading off for the Royals this year. And last year, you didn't see the same production. He was a very aggressive hitter. He liked to ambush a lot. And when he was struggling, it really hurt the offense. I mean, we all knew about the numbers from the Royals' leadoff position last year. It is the reason why they went after Jonathan India in the offseason, to give them a different approach, to give them someone who could see multiple pitches, could draw the walk, could work the count, and get somebody on base for Bobby Witt Jr. in the 2-hole. But as we've progressed through 51 games so far this season, the Royals are 5 games above 500, and I would say the majority of their success, if not all of it, can be attributed to their pitching staff, whether it be the rotation or the bullpen. The offense just hasn't given them enough. And there's a lot of people out there that would say, well, you need to call up Jack Caglione. You need to make a trade. You need to move this guy up from AAA and DFA this other guy in the lineup. There are a lot of different ways to fix a lineup. But sometimes I would say that you're dealing with the guys you're going to have. Like the Royals lineup they had on Sunday, and for the majority of the weekend, they're going to have for the entirety of this season. They are not going to cut Salvador Perez, who we're going to talk about in the second segment. They are not going to get rid of Vinny Pasquantino. You can be frustrated with the way they've played. They're not getting rid of those players. So a lot of it comes down to how can you put these guys in the best position to benefit your team, to benefit this offense. And when I dove into these numbers with Maikel Garcia, though it's a smaller sample size, I believe it's worth bringing up. It's worth noting. Now, if you didn't catch this, again, you can always follow me on Twitter or X, whatever you call it, at JohnnyJ_15. But 6 times this season, Maikel Garcia has led off for Kansas City. And it's been when Jonathan India is not playing. So 6 times this season, When Jonathan India is not in the lineup, you can see Garcia at the top of the order. In those 6 games, and I will say 2 of them were against the Rockies and the White Sox. But Garcia is 11 for 23. That's a 478 average. He gets on base at a 480 clip. He has 4 multi-hit games in those 6 games. And the Royals are 5-1 in those 6, the one loss being in New York against the Yankees. They have averaged 4.2 runs per game in those 6 games. Now, why this is notable, other than just the 6-game stretch, him being 11 for 23, over the course of the season, we have seen a different approach from Maikel Garcia. He is now in the 86th percentile in chase rate. He is walking nearly 10% of the time. And anytime you get into the double digits with your walk rate, you have a mature and refined approach at the plate. And that's what's made things different for him. That's why you see the average up at 315. Why he's been the best hitter for the Royals through 51 games this season. Even better than Bobby Witt Jr. You are seeing somebody that is flourishing. And his approach has gotten so much better from last year, it does make this argument a little bit stronger. It's one thing if Maikel Garcia was hitting 315 and he was walking at a 4% clip, he was striking out 25% of the time, and he was a singles hitter. It's not been the case this year. You have somebody that is hitting the ball hard, hitting the ball to all fields, and hitting the ball with power. And I don't believe this, puts Jonathan India down in the order for demotion. I don't believe this is to shun him or to say it's just not working out anymore, because I also brought up Jonathan India's numbers, or I looked up Jonathan India's numbers. 77 times in his career, he has started a game hitting 6th, 7th, or 8th in the order. When hitting 6th, 7th, or 8th, he is slashing 279, 386, and 451. Quite honestly, looking at his numbers in the leadoff position where he has played the most in his big league career, the numbers are fine. They just don't pop. And I saw that the numbers were truly popping when he was hitting 6th, 7th, or 8th. You take pressure off of him. It gives you more protection at the bottom of the order. It is very clear that he is not going to be an extra base hitter or a home run hitter for the Royals at the top. He is going to be a walk and singles hitter. That screams more 7, 8, 9 hole hitter than it does leadoff hitter. And with the way things have gone through those 51 games, I don't believe that now it's that far-fetched to make that change. Jonathan India is banged up. He has had the knee problem. He had the groin problem or the hamstring problem. He's been banged up a little bit this year. And he's not really known for his speed. He's not known for his glove. He is known to take a lot of pitches, draw walks, and hit singles. And maybe putting him lower in the order can help that a bit. Take some pressure off of him, even though he's got a ton of experience at the top of the order. Because this is exactly what we said about Maikel Garcia and why he was flourishing. He wasn't dealing with the pressure of being the table setter. He wasn't the guy to be looked at to lead off the game and set the table for Bobby Witt Jr. And we've seen him thrive in the 5 hole, in the 6 hole. And he's turning in a career year so far. But there also comes a point in time in the season when an offense has given you a big enough sample size where you do need to make some changes. And you need to look inward and go, what can I do to help these guys and put them in the best possible positions to win? With the way Garcia is playing, I don't see why you shouldn't try him at the leadoff position. You would have your 2 best hitters hitting 1 and 2. Garcia, though he doesn't have the same success rate stealing bases, he gives you that edge at the top of the order. Jonathan India does not. And Garcia is just getting on base at a much higher clip, and he's walking nearly 10% of the time. That can be a leadoff hitter, and maybe a leadoff hitter with more upside. If Jonathan India starts to flourish and Garcia starts to struggle again, well, then you can flip him right back. But you got to get to a point where maybe a change is what's needed. You got to realize that what you've been doing just isn't working. and you can try to get guys going in different spots. I also understand the risk where you move a guy up in the order and he was doing just 5 in the 5 hole, and now he starts to struggle in the number 1 spot in the lineup, the leadoff position. And if that hurts him for the rest of the year, that damages him for the rest of the year, you would unfortunately have to live with that. It just feels like the offense is not where it needs to be, and there haven't been any signs that a breakout is coming. We have seen the games like Wednesday. We have seen those games like the one in Baltimore where the offense just all of a sudden comes to life, but it hasn't been consistent enough. And at times you need a lineup change. And I don't believe it has to be moving somebody out of there. It might just be moving the pieces you already have, 1 through 9. Moving guys around, shuffling guys around. And to me, from what we've seen in 2025, that might be the best course of action. Take the pressure off of a banged-up Jonathan India, put him in a spot 6, 7, or 8 where he's thrived in his career or thriven in his career, and put Maikel Garcia back to where he was last year. But it's a different version of Maikel Garcia, and one that I think could really help the Royals at the top of the lineup. Okay, we're going to take our first break of the show. When we come back, am I concerned about Salvador Perez and the numbers he's been putting up? I'll tell you next on Locked On Royals. You are tuned into Locked On Royals and the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Jack Johnson, and you can catch us on wherever you get your podcasts: Spotify, Apple Podcast, Amazon Music, Google Podcast, Odyssey, and YouTube. Just be sure to hit the follow button and subscribe. Before we go any further, I want to let you know about Supply House. Get the supplies you need from the site made for the skilled trades. That's Supply House. Whether you're in plumbing, HVAC, or electrical work, Supply House is the reliable way to order products online. Their easy-to-use website is packed with helpful resources and the latest product info to help you get the job done right. Plus, with a complete inventory of over 200,000 parts from 400-plus top brands, you'll find exactly what you need, delivered fast from coast to coast. Need help with an order? Supply House offers expert support and industry-leading service, so you'll always talk to a real person. And for trade pros looking for an extra edge, their free Trade Master program offers exclusive perks like a dedicated phone line, free shipping, and discounts on every order. Thousands of skilled professionals are already taking advantage. Now it's your turn. Join the Trade Master program today at supplyhouse.com/TM and start ordering plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies with just a few clicks. Plus, use promo code SH5 for 5% off your first order. That's supplyhouse.com. The next thing we're going to be diving into here is just quite frankly the struggles of Salvador Perez. And if it's gotten to a point that the Royals need to make a tougher decision, not to let him go or not to bench him, but to move him from the cleanup role, maybe to move him from an everyday role in Kansas City. We know that Salvador Perez is an icon, and he will forever be an icon in Kansas City. He's the captain. He's got the C on his chest, and that means something. They don't just hand that out to every other player. Every year they've got somebody wearing the C. It takes a lot to earn that right in the Royals clubhouse. And even in these struggles, Salvador Perez is not shying away from playing through them. He's dealing with the hip problem, though it might be 100% or it might not be. He's just playing through it. And if it's affecting him, he won't let anybody know, probably, because he's just that type of gamer. He is a competitive guy and always has been and always will be. He is team first. He cares for the city, and that's why it's tough to see him struggle. And I understand from a fan standpoint, you look at it for what baseball is. It's a business about winning. And if you aren't helping the team win, you don't necessarily become an enemy, but you are not looked at as a favorite. Like if you are contributing to losses, you become a point of criticism. People look to you and say, you're the reason this team is losing. And I'm not naive to that. Salvador Perez and his offensive struggles, they've been a main part as to why the Royals are bottom in the American League in runs scored. Like that just can't happen from your cleanup hitter. But the bigger question in this is not so much about do we believe the Royals lineup will get things turned around? The big question is, do we believe Salvador Perez can? Because what I've said before, and I'll say it again, and we use that phrase a lot here on the show, is that Father Time is undefeated. Eventually, there will be a season where Salvador Perez looks like he does right now, and he just never gets out of it. It is just the reality of this sport and sports in general. When guys hit that point in their career where Father Time has caught up to them, and they are no longer the spring chicken, and they can start slow, and they've got the muscle, the power, the energy to work their way through it and become a better version of themselves, that's when you know maybe it's time to hang up the cleats. And I don't know if that's this year, right? If Salvador Perez does not get out of this slump, and maybe Wednesday was a sign that he's about to break out of the slump. He's also known to be the unluckiest hitter in baseball right now when you look at those advanced metrics. So he's got that going for him. And I will always say this about Salvador Perez until the day he stops playing baseball. He is the guy on this team you just should never count out. I will stand true to that. I will have that feeling, and I will have that opinion until he's done playing, until I can't back up that statement anymore. Because he would have that season, as I am referring to, where he just never gets out of the slump. It's just a bad all-around season. But until that day, I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt. I am going to believe that bad stretches are going to be met with a different version of him, a changed hitter, a more powerful hitter, a guy that can go on a stretch of, going 10 of 20 or maybe 25 of 55, and he hits 10 home runs in the span of a month. I believe that is always possible with him until it's just not anymore. He has done this so often in his career. We have seen terrible stretches of Salvador Perez, and then right when you're ready to put the final nail in the coffin and say, this is it, it has finally happened, and age has caught up to him, he plays like an all-star again. And I believe that it's been a combination of he's getting older, right? He's battled some soreness this year, and he's just been really unlucky. That's how I viewed it. The numbers are far worse than what we all expected, and maybe what they even look like. They are far worse because of the bad slumps he's gone through. Going 8 of 50, not hitting for much power. It feels so much worse, and the bad plate discipline seems so much worse because the offense also is struggling at an alarming rate. So when you got that all mixed in together, it just seems worse. But I would say the bad luck, and you match that with the hard hit rate and the barrel percentage, you've got some numbers and some data to back up the argument that, he's just been unlucky. And baseball will tell you, and an experienced veteran will tell you, it's going to start going in your favor. And that's something maybe even in some down years for Salvador Perez, we just didn't have. We didn't have the luxury of saying he's just been a really unlucky hitter. And if this was a rookie, if this was a second-year guy, and you said, man, he's just been really unlucky, well, unfortunately, I wouldn't have another year to go off of where this had happened before. Like Salvador Perez has had some stretches where he's hit the ball really hard, and he's 2 for 20. And he strikes out 8 times in that stretch. But when he's making contact, he's barreling the ball. And there's just guys that are positioned well, or they're deep enough in the park, they're able to run something down. It just happens in baseball. And I thought it was a really good point that was made to me a few years back, that when the fall off happens for Salvador Perez, it's going to be a tremendous fall off. It's not going to be a gradual, he's slowly nearing the end of his career, and then he's able to, walk off into the sunset with a 265, 270 average, and he got on base at a 330 clip. When that drop off happens, it'll probably be a 240 or 250 OBP, and he's barely above the Mendoza line. It's just the style he's always had. He is an aggressive hitter. He's a bad ball hitter. And when bad ball hitters stop hitting those bad balls, the numbers are going to be bad. The slash line is going to be ugly. The power is going to be gone. And we've seen it with great players before, that when the fall off happens, it is so notable. I mean, you have one year where they're hitting 275 and they have 25 to 30 home runs, and the next year they got like 5 or 6, and they're hitting 205. And somebody told me that years ago that that's probably what's going to happen with Salvador Perez, but I'm also not sold that this is the year it's going to happen. I believe he's been incredibly unlucky. And his play style, the ugly swings, the chasing the sliders down in the way, he's always done that. So if you're out there going, well, he needs to change that approach, newsflash, it's not going to happen. That is what he has done since he's been 16 years old. He is going to swing at those pitches, and there are some balls that he's going to hit that are way down in the way. The 2014 wild card hit, as I've said before, does not happen if Salvador Perez is not a bad ball hitter. Doesn't happen. Those guys don't swing at those pitches. But the fact that he did gave the Royals one of their biggest wins in franchise history. And there's been a lot of hits that he's gotten to the gap or just over the second baseman or just over the shortstop because he's a bad ball hitter. I do feel that at some point he's going to catch fire again, and some of those unlucky numbers are going to turn into good numbers for the Royals in the cleanup position. Okay, we'll take our final break of the show. When we come back, we'll preview the series against Minnesota and ask the question, can some of these AAA guys help out the Royals lineup? That's coming up next on Locked On Royals. You are tuned into Locked On Royals in the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Jack Johnson, and you can find me on Twitter or X at JohnnyJ_15. And I will say that for tomorrow, you're not going to have to worry about a late night episode. This usually just happens if I've got work that's really been piling up, got a lot to get done, and I got to save the episode for later. But tomorrow, I can guarantee you, we'll be bringing you that Mailbag Friday episode, so you can leave the comment on YouTube, or you can reach out to me on Twitter. We'll get to that in the morning and probably get that episode to you around noon. And then on Saturday and Sunday, we're also going to be bringing you episodes so we can make up for what happened on Monday and Tuesday, which nothing bad was happening. I was just in San Francisco watching the Royals and the Giants and didn't have any time to do episodes down there. Didn't have my laptop or any of my podcasting equipment. Just was enjoying the time in San Francisco. But don't worry, I'll be making up those episodes this weekend. And as for this weekend, here is what the pitching matchups look like, and then we'll dive into a little bit if I believe these three hitters can help out the Royals lineup in Kansas City. So on Friday, tomorrow, you'll have a first pitch of 7:10 p.m. It'll be Noah Cameron making his third start of the season, going up against Pablo Lopez, who is 4-2 with a 2.40 ERA, and he's been much better this year than he was last year. Now, Pablo Lopez has always been a problem for the Royals, and it's going to be a tough one tomorrow when you got a rookie on the bump and you've got somebody that's just been throwing the ball so well. Last time out against Milwaukee on the road, he gave up no runs over 6 innings, allowed just 2 hits, struck out 6, and walked 2. In the start before that against the Giants, he threw 6 innings, did give up 4 runs, but struck out 6 and walked just 2 again. But then against Baltimore, he went 5 innings, gave up just 2 hits, 1 earned run, and struck out 11 in that game. Like I said, on the season, a 2.4 ERA, and is always given the Royals so much trouble. So big task for Noah Cameron going up against Pablo Lopez on the road in a place the Royals just have not fared well in this season. But you look at the numbers for the Minnesota Twins and how they've done against Noah Cameron. Well, there wouldn't be anybody other than some minor league numbers for these guys going up against Cameron tomorrow. Whereas for Lopez, there are some good numbers for guys in the lineup. Mark Canha is OPSing 1.074 against Pablo Lopez in 15 at-bats. You also have Kyle Isbell OPSing at 1.044 in 13 at-bats. And you do have Bobby Witt Jr. OPSing at 958 in 16 at-bats. But Salvador Perez, Hunter Renfroe, Michael Massey, and Jonathan India all do not have the greatest of numbers against Pablo Lopez. So that's game one in the series. In game two, it'll be Michael Wacha on the bump, and he's been maybe the Royals' most consistent arm this season, and he'll go up against Zebby Matthews, the young, hard-throwing right-hander of Minnesota. Only 3 innings on the season for him, and that came last time out against the Brewers. He gave up 4 runs in just 3 innings of work, 5 hits. He walked 3 and did strike out 5. The Royals saw him last year in Minnesota when I want to say Seth Lugo got lit up a little bit, and it was an ugly series for the Royals. Want to say they managed to win 1 of those 4 games, but Zebby Matthews did pitch in that game. Believe MJ Melendez homered off of him, but that was the only run they got at Target Field. So they'll get him again on Saturday. First pitch will be at 1:10. So you have an afternoon game on Saturday, and you will have an afternoon game on Sunday. Chris Bubich trying to keep his name in Cy Young talks as long as he can. He's 5-2 with a 1.47 ERA, and the Royals will get Bailey Ober, who they just seem to crush every single time they face him. But he's been really good over his last 7 starts, just a 2.56 ERA. He did go only 3 innings against Cleveland on May 19th, 4 2/3 against Baltimore, and 5 innings against Baltimore at home the start before that. But he gave up only 1 run, 3 runs, and 1 run. So he's keeping lineups in check. He's also not working that deep into the game, just 51 1/3 innings on the year in 10 starts for the Twins. So that'll be Sunday's matchup. The Royals and Twins are tied in the American League Central, both just 5 games back, but they're also now tied with Cleveland as well. So you have a 3-way tie for second place in the Central. The White Sox are 17.5 back. Cleveland did win tonight over the Tigers at Comerica Park. So a big, big series for the Royals. We'll see if they can go out there and win with Noah Cameron on the mound for just the second time this season. Now, before we wrap up tonight's show, I've been getting this question a lot about these 3 hitters for the Omaha Storm Chasers. You have Nick Lofton, you've got Cam Devaney, and you've got John Rave. Are they guys the Royals should give a chance in Kansas City? Because for some of their players in the lineup, they're just not cutting it. Maybe you say Michael Massey's not cutting it. You need to put Nick Lofton there, or you need to put Cam Devaney there. The outfield needs an extra guy out there. If Hunter Renfroe is going to hit the way he is, give John Rave an opportunity. And I'll leave you all with this. And I know it's not going to be the most popular take. In fact, it's going to be a very unpopular take. But those 3 guys, I do believe, have earned a spot in Kansas City. So I will get that out of the way. I believe they have played well enough, and those guys have earned a roster spot in Kansas City. It's also the big leagues. And I know this goes against what I say about Jack Caglione a lot, right? That the numbers are not going to translate. Some of these guys, you do have to understand the position the Royals are in. So the Royals being 5 games over 500, they know that they need to keep pace in a very tough division. And giving John Rave the nod as an everyday outfielder, or Nick Lofton as an everyday second baseman, or Cam Devaney as a everyday player, maybe just a super utility guy, you got to be pretty sure that they can be better than what is being put out there right now. And for some of you in the comments, I understand what will be said. You'll say, well, yeah, they can do better than Hunter Renfroe. They can do better than Michael Massey. They can do better than Kevin Biggio. And maybe that is the case. Maybe you would be right that they can do better. But never say it can't get worse, to quote Buddy Bell. Never say it cannot get worse. Nick Lofton last year was not good in Kansas City. And there was a stretch before he was demoted where I want to say he was about 5 for 40, if not way worse than that. It might have been 5 for 50 now that I think about it, right before his demotion. I mean, you had somebody that was hitting far worse than Michael Massey is right now. And I still like Nick Lofton a lot. He was a first-round talent. He's still only 26 years old, and he has done a great job in Omaha this year, making a name for himself once again. He has done a good job in these, 40 games for Omaha. He's getting on base at a 451 clip. 39 walks, just 22 strikeouts. That to me would seem good enough. But also you go back to last year and what he did in Kansas City. And in Kansas City in 2024, he hit 189, got on base at a 282 clip. Michael Massey's doing better than that right now. With Cam Devaney and John Rave, I do believe they've earned a spot to maybe be there instead of Kevin Biggio. I really do. But they are older prospects. Cam Devaney and John Rave are both nearing 30. They're 28, 29 years old. And sometimes you look at that and you say, there's a reason they're still in the minor leagues at 28 or 29 or 30. It's because the organization, the scouts, and the front office members don't believe they can be a big-time contributor at the big league level. But seriously, I would say that I feel that this is a team that should give some of those guys an opportunity. And not to say that it can't ever get worse. It certainly can. But I believe at least one of them deserves a spot in Kansas City. Maybe not to be an everyday starter, but at least to be somebody off the bench that can help out this lineup a little bit or help out the depth of this lineup. Well, that's going to do it for another edition of Locked On Royals and the Locked On Podcast Network. I've been your host, Jack Johnson. Thank you for making Locked On Royals your first listen today. For your second, check out the all-new Locked On MLB Game Night. Every game, every night, all season long. Get local analysis on a national scale and find MLB Game Night on Locked On MLB on YouTube or wherever you get your podcast. Tomorrow, we'll be bringing you our Mailbag Friday, but until then, you take it easy, Kansas City.